Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick, and excuse the sunburned face. I just climbed Mount Whitney, so I spent hours in terrible sun and hours in freezing cold. So conquered it, and if you want to watch, I'll be putting a video out on my YouTube channel. So just think about subscribing, and if you like hiking, maybe go over to my website for the next hike that I'm going to be organizing in November, Devil's Lake. But the idea I wanted to give to you today, I had a patient that we were trying to reprogram her sleep and reprogram her craving, which I believe is because of the fragmented sleep. When somebody goes through a sleep cycle, and there's about 7 per night, and yet they don't go into the deepest parts of the sleep cycle, it might be fragmented or you might be missing a couple. That is almost like sleeping 3 hours instead of 7 hours. And when people crave stuff during the day, the biggest reason would be because of sleep issues, whether it's sleep apnea. I'll be doing a video on mouth taping. I found a new tape called hostage tape that actually works better than my previous tape. And or it could be that you're drinking too much at night. It could be that your sleep cycle is so unkept. But bottom line is that what I wanted to talk about today is the power of texture. So if you like potato chips, like I love potato chips, there's something about the crunch that makes you feel so happy and satiated. And unfortunately, the food industry knows that, so they make everything crunchy and thin. And then you can't stop. Even if you didn't like pretzels, when they make it ultra thin and they make it coated with chocolate, it's like, oh my gosh, how do you stop that? So there's a study that was done with regards to potato chips and males and females. And the ultimate with this study was that they found in men, it made a difference. So the more crunch they had, the more satiated they were, meaning satiety, happiness. We always will go for these things called hedonic foods. That's like sweets, chocolates, candies, chips. Now this is not hedonic food. In fact, I don't even have a taste for these things, but I needed something with a crunch. And I needed something that would reward the crunch. This is avocado. You can see it's about half done and the bag is half done. So I am postponing my first meal today until 12, and it is now 12:25. So that's why I wanted to have something to reward myself. When you're resetting your circadian rhythm or resetting your fasting, I think it's very important to power through and fight the hunger when you're first getting into this thing. But I also think it's fair to reward yourself during the first week or two that you have made the goal, you made the time period in the fasting regimen, and you can a little overindulge in your healthy food. Now this is a crunchy, I was either going to get this or snap peas, sugar snap peas. There's not really sugar in it, but I just decided to get the apples. And if you eat apples alone, you might be happy, but I like to use fat. Again, the apples will have a little bit of carbohydrate, depending on what type of apple. The fat will also give a signal of fat. So depending on the quality of what your snack would be, when you break fast, it will cause an insulin spike or it will keep insulin neutral. My objective is always to keep the insulin on the low side. My patient with a sleep issue also has an insulin that's popping up. So we want to fix sleep, we want to control crave, and we also want to bring down insulin. Higher insulins over time usually lead to diabetes. Lower insulins over time lead to less diabetes, less weight, better sleep, less metabolism issues. So this is just a video to tell you that sometimes food texture makes a difference, especially if you're male. I think the same study also referenced another data point that was found where women seem to like solid foods versus liquid foods. And there was a comparison to see if there was a satiety change. And it was found that the solid foods gave more satiety, liquid foods, no. And the theory was that when you drank liquid, it went down fast and your brain didn't really know what happened, and you just relied on the stretching of the stomach to release ghrelin and then give you satiety, versus solid food where you have to take time, you have to, again, crunch. I think there's an inherent thing with humans that you have to get the crunch out. I think a lot of people that have, say, iron deficiency will go for crunchy things. They'll eat weird stuff like soil, but it's a craving that the body goes through when there's a deficiency. And that's just with regards to iron, for example. But in the case of poor sleep or a unstructured circadian rhythm at night, I think that the body will interpret that as a deficiency, and it'll make you hunt for stuff that you don't need. Hedonic foods, and again, whether eating too much of this is hedonic, but snacking on chips, anything you'll find on the checkout counters right next to you where you're surrounded by stuff, that's usually hedonic foods. So ultimately, we don't want to take too much of those foods in. We do want to take a lot of protein, fats, and healthy carbs, or at least non-starchy vegetables. Those will get you to longevity faster. Those will get you to 60 and to the top of a 14,000 foot mountain without having any side effects. And I think that when we're talking about longevity, less disease versus hedonic foods, insulin resistance, diabetes, high blood pressure, and early death, or a ton of medical problems, I'd rather go this way. So this will just give you another idea about how to make that fast. I know a lot of people will try to fast and they'll have the hardest time because the body will kick back and say, I want that stuff you gave me before. So I really think it's important to fast, or at least practice it every once in a while, once a month, 5 days. But you cannot rely on that. And I'll do another video in the near future. All the data shows if you fast and maintain a fast too long, the body adapts to that and it fixes itself. So you still will gain weight even if you're fasting. So this is always a moving target. So if you do this alone, then God bless you. But you should have your doctor put together ideas for you, or a registered dietitian that's really good. I have both. I mean, I'm the doctor, but I also have a registered dietitian that I refer to often in Lisle, Illinois, and she does virtuals. So I think it's important to have coaches on your team to guide you to shortcut this stuff. That's what some of the bodybuilders called hacking. If you can hack your way to problem solve instead of doing the arduous trial and error thing, you just try somebody else's suggestions and you fix your disease process fast. Please consider subscribing, otherwise I'll see you at the next video.